By the end of this video, you will learn how to escape this endless price objections when selling your B2B SaaS startup. The reason you're facing them is because you're selling your solution on a feature level instead of selling the bigger outcome level. Let me explain. So imagine that your solution allows people to replace a bunch of different tools with one. So for example, one of the guys I'm working with right now, he is scaling a product that allows e-com brands do all the new item and product line planning in one place instead of doing all different tools. And the story is the following. Basically, he was often referencing the stuff that, for example, oh, you no longer need to be using Google Sheets here. You no longer need to be syncing and paying for your Zaps there, for Zapier, and stuff like that. So imagine that you are positioning yourself as a way to get rid of many other different applications. And that is what causing all this trouble, because then imagine if during the call you anchor yourself in your pricing to all this $5 a month, $50 a month solutions, then when you get to giving your own quote, which might be a couple $1,000, could be a couple $100,000, is going to be coming from a point of very low anchoring. So recently, there has been a lot of noise with Trump's tariff game and how he has been doing negotiations, well, from his style. I don't want to make it into a political video, but you need to understand the negotiation concept here. The thing that Trump has done, thanks to his the art of a deal frameworks, he is starting out with every deal going super in his position. And for example, imagine that he wants to settle for 10% tariff with one country. He would start off with 30-40% tariffs and then negotiate down and settle somewhere in between, about around 10%. This is just one of the examples. So what he is doing is he sets such a high anchor that the good outcome for him is still in a very healthy range. If he was starting with 10% tariffs, he would be ending up with like maybe 5-6% after negotiation with countries. But as he's starting at the point which some and many in the world is gonna believe is to be extremely absurd and crazy high, this is how the range which he ends up in is actually very beneficial for him. How does this apply to B2B SaaS? So if you are starting discussions with 0.1/0.5% tariffs, there is no way you're gonna then end up closing people into 10-15% tariff plans. However, if you go and start conversations at 30-50%, then when you're gonna settle for 5-7, they're gonna think that it's a steal. How can we apply it here? So when you're talking about your solution, when you're in conversations with the prospect, you need to get away from this feature level conversations. No more, oh, we replace this $10 an hour solution. We help you combine this one, which is $29 a month, and another one, which is $17 a month into one, etc. If you help e-com brands centralize things in one place, this is going to allow them to achieve higher profit margins and reduce number of stuff that is needed for them to fulfill. This way, the much better anchors would be, okay, what's your current profit margin and what is your annual revenue? Oh, for example, you're making 10 mil a year, and after, for example, after all the costs, you're ending up in, for instance, 5 mil in revenue. Imagine that you could streamline your process such way that you could have an extra few $100,000 added to that in profit. What will you do with them? Another example, how many assistants do you currently have on your team managing all these processes? Oh, you have 4 people and each of them is like $50,000 annual salary. So that's like what, 200K right now, that it's what is costing you to fulfill on this process each year. How about I show you how to get it all done with 0 assistants, just by 1 manager in less than 1 hour a week. Sounds interesting, and especially with you charging less than 10% of the current cost that they are paying. Because if, for instance, your solution allows people to remove 4 assistants and save a lot of hours, you may charge 10 to 20K for it. And this is how you charging a 10 to 20K annual price tag is actually like super cheap for them, comparing with how much money they are saving. This is why it's so important for you not to get lost in this feature level discussions when showing your product and when doing the product demo, because when it gets to, oh, does it compare these sheets, or and do you have this function and that function? Look, if this is the type of discussion that's happening, I think by default you can count that it's already a lost thing. Yes, some niches you may get away with it, but primarily, especially if you're selling high ticket SaaS, you may count it as a lost deal, because then if after, for example, they see, oh, this is nice feature here and that's a nice feature there, after they're hit with, for example, a very high, the anchor is low because you've been discussing features and they can find replacement for these features for like $100 a month. And if the annual subscription of your tool is the first number that is pronounced in the call, no matter what you charge, is going to be sounding expensive. Imagine we talk cars with you, right? And I say, look, there is this BMW, there is this Audi, etc. So there is a very fantastic anchoring example that's been done by Rolls-Royce. So typically at different trade shows, Rolls-Royce, they were like the top of the pricing tier, meaning that unless we're going super high-end automobile trade shows, usually Rolls-Royces would be the most expensive. And you can, I mean, there is not much you can do if, for example, the person is going down the trade show and they see car for X price, Y price, and then there is suddenly car for 35X the price. Of course, with his anchoring being 35 times lower, he's gonna ask himself like 1,000 questions. Oh, is this really worth what they're asking for it? So that's why Rolls-Royce have done a very interesting thing. Instead of going to typical trade like automobile events, which I think you might correct me, but you may not even find them at any of them anymore. What they started doing is they started marketing their cars and showing them in yacht exhibitions, where different ships are being sold, and in different private jets events. Because when you're looking at Rolls-Royce as a nice complementary to your yacht or to your private jet, suddenly $500,000 or whichever it is dollar price tag that is asked for some Rolls-Royce cars, comparing with a 10-20 million dollar yacht or a $50 million private jet, you're like, okay, yeah, just add it to the bill, you know? And ultimately, this is something you can keep in mind when selling your SaaS too, because if the first, if the price of your SaaS goes after you've been talking Fiat and um, I don't know, Volkswagen and Ford, and then suddenly you present your, I don't know, Aston Martin, they're gonna be like, damn, yeah, sure, it's a nicer car, but is it actually 100 times as nice as those ones? Because, well, we used to drive them just fine. And that's why it's very important for you to win the positioning game and to be doing your discovery in your product demos, asking about, okay, what's the 6-month revenue goal for you? How then digging how much has been costing them dealing with this issue, how many resources they already put into this. Oh, it's already been more than 70K, they just put it into it last quarter and the issue is still not solved. Interesting. Oh, and after your solution is implemented, it's going to unlock another couple million in opportunities for them. Fantastic. And when we're talking this type of game, you present a 30K annual subscription thing, I'm like, well, it's a fair deal, of course, because my upside is like dozens of times above, and my downside, if you provide a guarantee, is much lower. So with that said, for you to stop being hit with this endless price objections, stop selling on a feature level and start running the conversations and the positioning game not as a better tool with this one feature where some people may find alternatives for $20 a month, but rather build a niche of one who can understand the customer's pains best and provide the ultimate solution for this niche market, that your solution is the key to achieve this higher end outcome. And as long as you can illustrate how you're the one who can understand the market best, people are going to be paying premium to be partnering up with you and choosing you over competitors. Appreciate you watching this one and talk soon.